Are you excited, everybody? It is Cup final week. Can you believe it? And today we're going to take a look at the last side to make a Cup final, which was way back in 1999. Let's get straight to it. Players that are missing from this list, which I found it quite astounding looking back at it. Stuart Pearce, Steve Howe, Alessandro Pistone, Georgie Georgiadis, Louis Sahar, Philippe Albert, Aaron Hughes, Nikos Dabizas and Andreas Anderson. All missing. In goal was Steve Harper. Yes, Steve Harper was actually keeping Shea Given out the side. Harper was incredibly loyal in Newcastle before moving to Hull in his 30s. He's now head of Newcastle United's youth academy, seeing the everyday life of the youngsters at the club. Harper is also a qualified FA referee, and he's the only player on this list who is employed by the club. Moving to right back is Andy Griffin, the first man on our list who's actually appeared on Newcastle Fans TV. The fullback was a specialist at man marking and comfortable playing left back or right back. He spent 6 years at the club, famously scoring in the Champions League against Juventus. Remember that? Gianluigi Buffon. And the very next game, he scored a worldie against Charlton. Griffin is now a coach at Newcastle Underline College. Moving to centre-back, Alan Goma. The Frenchman was hit and miss during his time at the Toon, but he's probably better known for his time at Fulham. Goma famously fell out with Freddie Shepherd. Shepherd criticised the defender for not wanting to be at the club. Since retiring, he now owns his own company in construction after a spell as a personal trainer, and he still lives in England to this day. He's in the capital, London. Next centre-back alongside him, fellow Frenchman Laurent Chauvet. Having impressed at Chelsea on loan, Newcastle pinched the Frenchman under the noses of Chelsea back in 1998, and he spent 2 years at the Toon. And since retiring, Chauvet has had spells as a professional poker player and has dipped into property, but there's not much news about him since. Left back, and another Frenchman on the list, Didier Domé, signed by Ruud Gullit just 5 months prior. He's the third Frenchman in this defence. Domé was an attacking left back and had a mixed spell at the club. Bobby Robson sold him back to PSG after spending under 3 years at the club, but he famously did score against the Mackhams. Today, Didier Domé is a pundit on BN Sports, and he's a technical director for PSG for the academy over in Qatar. Right midfield, probably the best pound-for-pound signing Newcastle United have ever made in Robert Lee. Most fans associate Rob Lee as a goal-scoring set midfielder and then later converting into a holding midfielder, but he did occasionally feature out wide, and he did in the cup final. Nowadays, Rob Lee is enjoying an easy life since retiring. Lee does occasionally punditry on TV, and he goes and watches his sons, who are also professional footballers. He's a massive, massive pal of Alan Shearer. Centre midfield, Didi Hamann, signed at the beginning of the season by Kenny Dalglish and only stayed for 1 season. Hamann is more well known in English football with his spell with Liverpool, picking up cup trophies, and in particular the famous one being 3-0 down against Milan. Obviously, Liverpool went on to win on penalties. Nowadays, Didi Hamann does punditry for Sky Sports over at Germany, and he's a regular guest on British TV and radio. He's also dipped into coaching in the past and had a brief spell as Stockport's manager back in 2011. Alongside him, Gary Speed. Since retiring, Speedo turned the fortunes of Wales around by installing belief. However, just over 12 years ago, Speedo took his own life, having appeared on Football Focus earlier in the day. Looking normal on TV, everybody was shell-shocked at the news. Rest in peace, Speedo. At left midfield, Nobby Solano. In his unusual position over there, he's the second player to appear on Newcastle Fans TV on this list. Of course, Nobby was a cultured midfielder. What a player. What incredible technique the Peruvian had. After retiring, he's now the Peruvian assistant manager. He's the Olympic manager of Peru, and he's the under-21 boss. He's made no secret in his desire to return to Newcastle as a coach, and don't be too surprised to see this very, very soon. Up top, we'll begin with the madman Tomori Katsubaya, the third man to appear on NFTV in this list. An unpredictable player in the mould, you would say, of Aspria, where you don't know what he's going to do. You could turn it on and look like a world beater, and then you could also flop the next game. He was more famous for taking his kit off in kicking the Hordens into Gallagher after coming off the bench and scoring against Bolton. Kasper is a respected manager, and he's also coached in the Champions League, and he's managed teams such as Olympiacos, AEK Athens, and is currently the national team manager of Cyprus. Fourth man to appear on Newcastle Fans TV is Newcastle's greatest ever player, and we're honoured he still follows us on the socials. Alan Shearer, record goal scorer for Newcastle, and he's netted 283 top flight goals. Despite the rebrand of the league system, it doesn't include the extra 23 goals. It all says 260 on Premier League, but he's got more. Shearer, of course, nowadays we all know appears regularly on Match of the Day, Premier League productions, and he has his own charity helping kids out in the area. Let's take a look at the substitutes. Remember, there was only 5 substitutes back then. Shay Given was on the bench. Scratch your head at that. Shay Given on the bench. Another one who follows us on Twitter. Given is undoubtedly the best goalkeeper I've ever saw in 28 years of supporting the club. What a goalkeeper. The amount of times, the shot stopping, the point blank saves, Given was sensational. And of course, he fell out with the club for not being ambitious under Mike Ashley. Nowadays, Shay Given appears regularly on Sky Sports and other outlets. He's also had spells as a goalkeeping coach since retiring. Defender Warren Barton is an unused substitute, which is rare for Barton not to be in the side. Another man who follows us on socials, and another one who's been on NFTV. He's been on a few times now. And since retiring, Barton has moved over to California. He's dipped his toes into coaching, but he's more known across the pond for his coverage on US TV with the Premier League. You'll also find him dipping into things like TalkSport and BBC 5 Live when Newcastle United is the subject. In the number 10 on the bench, he can also play in centre midfield, Silvio Maric, the Croatian international who failed to hit expectations on Tyneside after Hull had signed him a few months before the final. Maric played just 22 minutes, he came off the bench, didn't last that long in Tyneside as Bobby Robson sold him just a year later. Maric is now managing in the second tier in his homeland, Rudez. Scotsman winger Stephen Glass played the last 11 minutes at Wembley, and he's the last one on this list that follows us on the socials. Since retiring, Glass has managed to become head coach over in the MLS for Atlanta United and in the SPL with Aberdeen. Currently, Glass is the boss of Memphis 901 in the lower league level in the US of A. The last man on this list is Duncan Ferguson, a half-time substitute for Didi Hamann. Ferguson's son currently plays for our under-21 side, Cameron Ferguson, and Big Dunk is fondly known for being an Everton legend. He's just recently left the Toffees coaching setup to become the new manager of Forest Green Rovers. You do not want to mess with Big Dunk. And of course, we'll take a look at the manager. Who can forget Ruud Gullit? A few months after the final, Gullit was famously sacked for losing to Sunderland and benching Duncan Ferguson and Alan Shearer, who both stormed into his office the next morning wanting answers. Then, of course, Robson came in and turned it all around, but Gullit was the last man before Eddie Howe to take us to a cup final, something Kevin Keegan or Bobby Robson himself never achieved. Gullit went on to manage a few clubs across Europe, and his last job was back in 2011 in Russia. Gullit currently works with the UEFA and does punditry for several of outlets such as BN Sports, BBC and ITV. Gullit's son is also a professional footballer. So there you have it. That was the last side. Where are they now to reach a cup final back in 99? Sadly, we didn't win that game. We lost 2-0 against Manchester United. We all know this. But let's hope Eddie Howe's side come this Sunday against Manchester United, of all the teams, funny enough, and then go out there and do us proud. Thanks for watching, everybody, and how are the lads?